Shalom, Yasharallah. This your brother Dawada coming back at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakakudash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you, Aki, and pushing this truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. So I want to jump into this here article real quick, dealing with Iran. All right. It says Iran firmly committed to developing missile capability, says defense minister amid hostility in the region. All right. It says the Iranian defense minister has reaffirmed his country's commitment to strengthening its missile capabilities as Trump-era sanctions remain in place and tensions with Israel and the new U.S. administration worsen. It says, speaking on Thursday at a meeting with the senior Iranian officer, Defense Minister Brigadier General Amir Hatami claimed that significant progress have been made in Iran's defense industry despite the presence of crippling sanctions. He noted that the nation's military had met its objectives for the year, which ends on March 20th on the Persian calendar. All right. And, you know, like when we read in, what is that, Ezekiel 38, talking about Russia being a guard unto them, you know, and then they mention Persia. All right. Now, Persia is like one of the, you know, how do I say, one of the last countries to have their names changed as far as like what you would find them in the you know, the Bible labeled as, you know, because some people would think that, oh, I know this is how I used to think when I was a real little kid, that, you know, all those places in the Bible, it must be a fairy tale because I ain't never heard of no place called Babylon and this and that. Until one day I was reading in there and I was like, oh shit, Egypt in there, you know, it's a real, you know, that's a real place, you know, in Rome and things like that. But nevertheless, you know, if you were looking for a place called Persia, well, you'll find the Persian Gulf. All right. But Iran, you know, they just, you know, that was one of the, like I said, one of the latest countries to change their name, you know, like from Persia to Iran. All right. So repeating a remark popular among the Iran's leadership, Hatami claimed that Tehran had beaten former U.S. President Donald Trump, who had enacted a maximum pressure campaign on the Iranian nation. In the end, it was Trump who was put aside from power, he claimed. In regional fields and in the country's defense and missile power, we continue moving forward. We continue moving towards great objectives with all our might, Hatami stated, adding that he expected hostility against Iran to continue for the foreseeable future. You know, because, you know, ultimately Iran is part of that catalyst is going to kick things off into World War III. You know, as you see how things is building up, you know, it looks like that they're going to use maybe an attack on Israel from Iran. All right, to you know, draw in, you know, because America don't ever want to be blamed for anything like that. You know what I'm saying? And so they'll go over there and provoke the Iranians to attack Israel or make it seem as if that's the way. And then what? America will say, oh, we got to go to Israel's aid. We got to go to Israel's aid. And they're going to go over there. And guess who's going to come to Iran's aid? All right, Russia. All right, which is going to kick off into what? This here World War III. All right. It says throughout the past year, Iran has been keen to display its growing defense capability. On Monday, it says, on Monday, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps unveiled a new missile city at an undisclosed location. Video showing an extensive arsenal of ballistic and cruise missiles as well as electronic warfare equipment. And, you know, we already pretty much know that they're just buying these weapons from Russia. You know, because there ain't nobody been on the face of the earth that was able to create these nuclear missiles or the nuclear bomb, like the bomb portion of it, or even the rocket. All right. All this technology come from them damn Germans, right? You know, World War II. All right. Now, when you go into American history, they called it Project Paperclip. All right. Where you got like von Braun and the space program. That was all, you know, them trying to develop these ballistic missile systems and everything like that, man. All right. So let's read some scriptures real quick. Second Ezra 15, I'm going to start at verse 28. It says, behold, a horrible vision and the appearance thereof from the east, and the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon the earth, that they and all they which hear them may fear and tremble. Also the Carmanians, raging in wrath, shall go forth as a wild boar of the woods. All right, now when you go into this here name, the Carmanians, that's basically the Iranians. All right, it says also the Carmanians, raging in wrath, shall go forth as wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they consume, and join with them and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. All right. Now, when you go into the Iran, that was a great how do I say, superpower back in the past. Like when you look at the movie 300, all right, Xerxes and them, that was the Medo-Persian Empire, and basically, who took them down? All right, the Grecians, right? So they still have this so-called hatred between one another, all right, but it's going to spill back over the same, just like in the olden days, all right. It says, and then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature, and if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them, then these shall be troubled, bled, and kept silence through their power, and shall flee. And from the land of the Assyrians shall the enemy besiege them, and consume some of them, and in their hosts shall be fear and dread and strife among their kings. Behold, the clouds from the east and from the north and from the south, and they are very horrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm. It says, they shall smite one upon another. They shall smite down a great multitude of stars upon the earth, even their own star, and the blood shall be from the sword unto the belly. All right. So, going into these things, this is basically talking about what? World War III, man. All right. Because ultimately, like over there, what you know of is the Middle East. All right. And really, so you hear a lot of things talking about on the news, when they talk about certain things like that, the Strait of Hormuz. Right now, when you look at a map and everything like that, now that's like one of the major trade routes to be able to trade, really to get anything over into like the Middle East over there. Like if he was to transport it, via the waterways, just like how important the Panama Canal is, because you pretty much have to go all the way around South America, all right, to get from, like, let's say let's just say if you wanted to get from the East Coast of America to the West Coast of America by sea, right, you would have to go all the way around the bottom of South America. But see, now that you got the Panama Canal, that makes shipment and trade that much more faster, so they can get from one point to the other point that much more faster. So the goods, it don't cost that much to ship that way, But nevertheless, the same way with the Strait of Hormuz, that's why, and that's right there on the coastline of Iran, right? So a lot of times you hear about, or they see some ships in the Strait of Hormuz and whatnot, because that's going into a lot of their trade, restricting them on trade and things like that, basically besieging these cities, all right? Verse 35. Or verse 36, and dung of men unto the camel's hoof, and there shall be great fearful and trembling upon the earth, and they that see the wrath shall be afraid, and trembling shall come upon them, and then there shall come great storms from the south and from the north, and from another part from the west. A strong wind shall arise from the east, and shall open it, and the clouds which raised up in wrath, and the stars stirred to cause the fear towards the east, and the west wind shall be destroyed. The great and mighty cloud shall be puffed up in wrath, and the star, and they may make all the earth afraid, and them that dwell therein, and they shall pour out every one high and eminent place of a horrible star. Fire and hail and flying swords and many waters, and all the fields may be full, and all the rivers with an abundance of water. All right, let me read the next verse too. It says, well, let me just read further on down, verse 41. It says, give me 1 second. Slot. Let me start at verse 41. Fire and hail and flying swords, and many waters, that all fields may be full, and all the rivers with abundance of great waters. And they shall break down the cities and walls and mountains and hills and trees of the wood and grass of the meadows and their corn. And they shall go steadfast unto Babylon and make her afraid. Now, when you read in Ezekiel 38, this is going in pretty much into the same thing. Give me 1 second. All right, Salakia. Had to handle some business. But getting back into the lesson here, as we were reading about, like I said, this is pretty much like the same thing that's talked about in Ezekiel 38, Russia being a guardian to these other nations, and one of them being Persia, which is Iran. All right, which is gonna, like I believe that's Jeremiah 50 or 51. Talk about the king of the north, the king of the Medes, with an assembly of great nations going over there. All right, this is where it's going to be that World War III situation that happens over in the Middle East. All right, but here, it's talking about these Iranians, all right, being partakers in this here great battle. All right, and what do you see them doing right now with their weapons over there, or developing weapons and so on and so forth? You have America to keep, calling out, oh, they're developing nuclear weapons. Like, what a hypocrite. Don't you got nuclear weapons? Aren't you developing nuclear weapons right now? You know, but what, they can't develop nuclear weapons, and in reality, they're not developing nuclear weapons. They want a nuclear program to have nuclear, like how we have nuclear power plants, all right? It's way far cheaper for them to just to buy nuclear weapons from Russia, all right? But, hey, you know, they need a so-called boogeyman. But let me go back up to verse 41. It says, fire and hail and flying swords and many waters, and all the fields may be full, and all the rivers with the abundance of great waters. And they shall break down the cities and the walls and the mountains and the hills, the trees of the wood, the grass of the meadows, and their corn. And they shall go steadfastly unto Babylon to make her afraid. They shall come to her and besiege her, and the star and all the wrath shall they pour out upon her, and then shall the dust and the smoke go up into the heavens, and all they that be about her shall bewail her, just like as we read in Revelation, what is that, 18, for 1 day and 1 hour, you know, and all the great ships and the merchant cities, they're going to stand afar off, you know, looking at her torment, you know. But nevertheless, you know, we're reading about the end of America, man, Babylon, for 1 day and 1 hour. All right, this is how America ends, man. All right, and you seeing this prophecy being set up and being fulfilled right before your eyes, as far as, you know, Russia preparing themselves, and then the other nations with them. These nations beating their plowshares and their pruning hooks and the swords. All right, and they're coming together and becoming a conglomeration of nations, becoming on one accord. All the minds of the kings of these nations are all pretty much on one accord with one another to basically wage war against America, man. All right, so hey, you know, you're looking at, you know, how from a different perspective, right? How Russia can look outside they damn, you know, out of all their borders, they can sit there and see that America is slowly but surely, you know, fencing them in with their military and then with the NATO military, right? You know, you look at a map of all the NATO military bases around the globe, you'll see that, first of all, Iran is surrounded, but Russia is being surrounded as well, too. But in reality, it's the same thing is going on around America, all right? Or all these other nations are coming in a conglomeration, a great gathering of these nations, and they're all looking towards attacking America, man. All their agendas are all becoming on one accord to how do I say, besiege America, man. All right. Verse 45, and they that remain under her shall do service unto them that they have put in fear. But thou, Asia, that are partakers of hope of Babylon, and are the glory of her person. All right. So, you know, I mean, we could read all this down, but nevertheless, you get the point as far as these Carmanians or the Iranians, all right, being gathered up, being mustered up and stirred up and being pushed to develop these military weapons and set their face towards America. You know, you had the Soleimani assassination, the beginning of, 2020? All right, in January of 2020, they wound up assassinating Soleimani. They ain't forgot about that, man. All right, and they're still working towards that end goal, because while it's not according to their will, it's according to the Most High's will. So we see these things all taking place, all right, and we see how these wars and rumors of wars are still out here brewing up, man. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and close out with that. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying unto the elect. Until next time, I say, call halal Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakak Kodash, double honor to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that taught us this truth never will. And salutation, much love for y'all again, pushing this truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth, and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. Until next time, stay strong. Shalom.